After a 9-3 win in Game 4 last night, Idaho looks to end the Mountain Division Finals and punch their ticket into the Western Conference Finals. It's the Idaho Steelheads and the Allen Americans here from downtown Boise for Game 5 on this Sunday afternoon. Hello, hockey fans, and happy Mother's Day. Cam McGuire here alongside Joe Paris from KTVB News. Mark Brose will join us for the drop of the puck down at ice level in between the benches. Well, Joe, it certainly was a bounce-back win for the Steelheads, a night removed from their worst loss, not only in the playoffs, but the regular season as well. Idaho responds. They get goals from 7 different skaters. 15 different players recorded a point. 6 different players had multi-point outings, and not only was it a bounce-back win, but it was a real collective effort.
It was, and when you tell a team to bring it, well, that's what it looks like. The depth in scoring, as Cam mentioned, as we have some of the highlights from last night. 9 times Idaho lights the lamp in the 60-minute action there last night. And Cam and I was rewatching some of last night this morning. I was getting ready. The real thing I noticed is the pace. Idaho came flying out every single period last night, setting the tone and not looking back.
Well, through the first 10 games of the playoffs, Idaho has received a goal from 13 different skaters. 20 of the 21 players that have partaken in postseason play for Idaho have notched at least 1 point. The storyline last night for the Steelheads was Wade Murphy, who netted the hat trick. Murphy becoming just the 5th Idaho Steelhead player in team history to score a postseason hat trick. It was the first since 2010. Joe, we were talking about Murphy throughout the game last night. He has been spectacular here in the playoffs. He's tied for the league lead with 7 goals and is tied for 3rd with 12 points overall. Murphy having a breakout year this year for Idaho. He scored 2 in the second, and he capped off the hat trick there late in period number 3. Nicholas Kanade finding Murphy on that score. Kanade, he finished with 3 assists for the Steelheads. Here was what Wade Murphy had to say after the game last night.
Yeah, the first one, Gooch made a great play, just kind of drawing the 2 D-men, and the puck just went right kind of in the slot there and just tried to get it up over the goalie. Second one was just a shot on net. I saw this opening and just tried to put it there. And third one, Kanade just made a great pass. Just tried to put it again in net, and fortunately it went in.
Well, Joe, one thing that Murphy talked about last night as well was the Steelheads being able to break through, and they broke through last night on the power play. Idaho finished 3 for 5 on the man advantage last evening. You look at this playoffs, we talked about it last night. Idaho was just 1 for 15 in their first 3 games. Since then, in 7 games, they're 9 for 26. That's good for 34.6%. This was a power play that finished 6th in the regular season, and they're certainly finding their groove here in some timely matters.
And there is such a thing as puck luck, and we didn't really see that bounce in the favor of Idaho during the Utah series. And we were talking with Coach Everett Sheen in between the series saying, you know, when you take on Allen, how are you going to get the power play going? He said, we got to keep pushing. Whatever that meant, it worked, Cam, because the power play, oh yeah, it's going now.
Well, one thing that Murphy touched on too last night was their execution. Idaho had put up 56 shots in Wednesday night's 6-2 win. They put up 56 as well, but fell 7-2 on Friday night. Last night in that 9-3 victory, they're able to put up 43 shots, and it was one of those things. The bounces were there for Idaho. And I wouldn't necessarily say puck luck, but the execution, the game plan was on point last night for the Steelheads.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were times during that Utah series where very routine plays that we're used to seeing Idaho make, you know, those D-to-D passes, they would trickle over the blue line. They'd get out to the neutral zone. You'd have to clear. It would ruin an opportunity. Those types of little misses, we're not seeing them against the Allen Americans in this series, making a big difference, crushing the fundamentals.
The Steelheads last night, they received 11 points overall from their back line, 1 goal and 10 assists. Casey Johnson scoring his first of the playoffs. This was a defensive core in the regular season. No other team in the ECHL put up more points than this Idaho blue line, highlighted by rookie defenseman Owen Hedrick, who was named ECHL Defenseman of the Year. Hedrick having a great playoffs for the Steelheads. Hedrick right now currently tied for 2nd amongst defenders with 9 points. He led all defensemen with 15 goals and tied for 1st with 54 points in the regular season. Hedrick, though, is not the focus point right now that I want to talk about with this blue line. And I would say a little bit of an unsung hero. It's Casey Johnson, who has been spectacular for Idaho in the playoffs. The Grand Forks native, well, he mentioned he started the scoring last night. He has 1 goal and 6 assists in postseason play for Idaho. He leads the Steelheads right now at +6, and he's arguably been the best defenseman for Idaho this playoff run.
Yeah, and you got a guy like Casey Johnson, who you might not expect to be the guy who's having the best night on the blue line because of so many talented defensemen. And then, a guy like Hedrick we talked about, of course, Matt Register, but Casey Johnson, as Cam touched on, top of the team in plus-minus, which means even if he's not scoring, he's out there and good things are happening.
Well, we mentioned Nick Kanade, 3 assists last night for the Steelheads. Matt Register with 4 assists for Idaho, now 6 in his last 3 games. But in terms of the offensive production for Casey Johnson, here's what he said after the game last night.
I think our rotations and just puck movement, our passing's been really crisp. Everyone's kind of playing more defensive, and then that just leads to offense. So it's kind of just an all-around thing. We're deep scoring, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, Joe, we segue into our goaltending matchup here today, and for the Allen Americans, it's been a really odd week for them, right?
Yeah.
We've seen 2 different goaltenders partake. We've seen Idaho chase
Kevin
Chase,
Mandolese?
I was going to say Chase Perry. But
There
yes,
you
they
go.
have chased Kevin Mandolese twice this week, and they'll hand it back to Chase Perry here today. And I was a little surprised last night that Perry did not start. Perry on Friday night, 54 saves in the win. Remember, looking back to Wednesday, Perry came in relief for Mandolese after 40 minutes of play. And then last night, Perry came in to relieve Mandolese once again late in that second period. So we'll see what Chase Perry can bring here today.
Well, and frankly, Chase Perry's been the better goaltender for the Allen Americans, so I would say no surprise that he's starting tonight. But again, we were both surprised, along with Mark Brose last night, when Mandolese was the starter.
As for the Idaho Steelheads, we talk about a bounce-back performance from the team collectively. What a bounce-back performance it was for goaltender Adam Scheel, who had an unorthodox night on Friday night. You certainly can't blame him, but he allowed 7 goals on 23 shots, and last night in the victory, he got back to Adam Scheel ways. He made 28 saves in the win.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, Adam Scheel, he's got a short memory. That's what he'll tell you. So whether he wins 7-0 or he loses 0-7, he's going to come out fresh the next night, and that's what we're expecting to see here on Sunday afternoon.
In terms of the lineup here today, the Steelheads keep it the same as it was last night, but it's an interesting tape for the Allen Americans. 2 players suspended for altercations last night in the third period. Mikel Robideau, a gesture towards the referee that we cannot show on camera. He received 3 games. Aiden Brown, a high hit on Jade Miller in that third period, receiving 1 game. They do get Spencer Astyachuk back in the lineup as he's missed the last 2, served a suspension on Wednesday night. So it's the Steelheads and the Americans here on this Sunday afternoon. Idaho looking to punch their ticket into the Western Conference. Keep it right here. You're watching and listening to Idaho Steelheads Hockey on the Steelheads Broadcast Network.